Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. In this video I will be talking about weeks 11 and 12 of recovery after a midfoot fusion for a Lisfranc injury, or more specifically a Lisfranc dislocation. I am hoping that these videos where I am tracking my progress might be helpful for those of you who have gone through a similar situation, or that it might just be interesting for you to listen to. During weeks 11 and 12 after my surgery, I was working on the following things. Moving around was starting to feel much easier. This was because my foot was starting to feel more a part of my body. This might sound weird, but up until that point, my foot felt more like a foreign object, but it was starting to feel like it was more integrated into my ankle and leg. I was working on walking around the house more smoothly and more confidently in the walking boot. I was going up and down the stairs with more confidence. I was walking outside with the walking boot, still with either one crutch or both crutches. I was gradually working from walking with one crutch to no crutches inside. I was doing strengthening exercises during physical therapy, and I was adding machines and exercises that I was permitted to do at the gym. There were still restrictions, such as not being permitted to do the treadmill or the elliptical, but I was now permitted to do the bike and a few other leg machines that I enjoyed doing. Tuesday, October 8th, 2024, day 70 after my surgery. My foot was very sore and a little painful in the morning from physical therapy the day before, so I spent a lot of time in the morning keeping it elevated and icing it. It did get better later in the day, and I was able to make it out to trivia night with my husband and a few of our friends. I was continuing to clean my scar with the Vash since it still wasn't fully closed, and using the debris soft lolly to clean it with the Vash every few days to help with debridement. It did bleed after the cleaning, but the bleeding stopped after about 5 minutes. Wednesday, October 9th, 2024, day 71 after my surgery. My big toe still couldn't bend on its own, but I could wiggle it up and down. My foot was starting to feel more integrated into my body. Even though I still needed the crutches and my foot was almost always sore, it was starting to feel easier to move around. Thursday, October 10th, 2024, day 72 after the surgery. In the evening, I got up without thinking and did about 15 steps before realizing I had gotten up without using a crutch, without even thinking about it. I had forgotten all about the crutch and ended up being able to do about 30 steps before my foot and ankle were too painful to keep walking without a crutch. I had to elevate and ice my foot, but this seemed like a sign that I was ready to start practicing walking around the house without crutches. Friday, October 11th, 2024, day 73 after my surgery. My dad took me to physical therapy, and the physical therapist measured my range of motion today to compare to the first day of physical therapy a few weeks earlier. My range of motion had improved quite a bit, which really helped motivate me to continue working on the exercises. My scar was healing up a lot better, and there was finally not any more of the yellow slough on it. It was pretty itchy though and wasn't completely closed, but it was much better than it used to be. Saturday, October 12, 2024, day 74 after the surgery. My scar was continuing to heal well. I was practicing walking without the crutches now that the scar was closing up more. I got an aching pain in my lower leg all the way up to the knee when I walked outside from the back porch to the recycling bin and back to the house, which was about 50 steps, I think, from walking on the driveway without the crutches. My foot began to feel like it was burning, and it was very sore and pretty painful, and my ankle began to feel a dull ache. I had expected the foot and ankle pain, but did not expect the immediate pain up to my knee for an hour after walking on the concrete without the crutches. It ended up being swollen for the whole rest of the day, which was about 6 hours until I went to bed. I was feeling very nervous about going back to work in person at the end of the month because of how long it was taking me to walk without the crutches pain-free. I was able to start walking inside a bit without the crutches, but was not able to walk outside on hard surfaces without the crutches without intense pain, as I had found out that day, and that was very worrisome to me with my return to work date being October 23rd, which was just 11 days away. I really could not see how it was going to work out unless my foot really sped up with its recovery. At that point, I was working from home half-time. My FMLA was covering me working virtually, and since I had a doctor's appointment coming up in a couple of days, I planned on bringing up my concerns then because I just was not sure whether it was a realistic expectation to do the amount of driving and walking that I needed to do for my job. Sunday, October 13th, 2024, day 75 after my surgery. My foot was still really puffy that day after having walked outside on the concrete without crutches the day before. My foot and ankle also hurt a lot more than usual. I had burning, shooting, and stabbing pains all throughout the day. I had to ice my foot often that day and keep it elevated for most of the day. I was feeling very frustrated that day because progress was just feeling so slow, although my family did point out that I really was not that far out of my surgery. To me, it felt like a very long time, but I was barely a month and a half out, and so it was still normal that I was recovering at this rate. Monday, October 14th, 2024, day 76 after my surgery. My foot was starting to feel more like my foot again, as weird as that might sound, but until then, it had continued to feel somewhat foreign to me. I was getting more sensations from my foot, and I was starting to feel more aware of the bones and the muscles inside of it. I had my follow-up appointment at my doctor's office. They took x-rays and said that the second joint had fused well, but that the first TMT joint was still partially fused. Although there had been some progress since the x-rays a month earlier, it was still not quite where they wanted it to be. Since I was still not fully weight-bearing and the first TMT joint was not fully fused, I had to continue using my walking boot. Since my scar had finally completely closed and just had some scabbing, I could start strengthening exercises during physical therapy sessions. I also spoke about my return to work concerns. I was currently on FMLA and working virtually half-time, but was projected to return to work in person on October 23rd, which was coming up very soon. When I explained that my job requires driving to 7 different counties as a social worker and that I sometimes drive up to 3 or 4 hours on the same day, she immediately said that it would not be possible for me to do that yet. We settled on my tentatively working to in-person work mid-January, and with the plan that if physical therapy helped my foot be strong enough to handle walking longer distances and be prepared to do all of that driving comfortably sooner than mid-January, then she would be willing to provide a return to work for sooner. Matt and my family were commenting during week 12 after my surgery that it was weird to see me starting to be able to just get up and move around the house a bit after having needed the crutches and the knee scooter all the time for so long. I did still need the crutches on and off, especially for walking longer distances or for going outside, especially when walking down sidewalks or across parking lots, because the hardness of the concrete would send painful reverberations up through my foot and my leg if I didn't use the crutches. But otherwise, it was nice to be able to start getting up and just moving around and having use of my hands. And as Matt said, I was starting to move around less hobbled in my walking boot. My gait was starting to be much smoother and much more natural when I was moving around. Tuesday, October 15th, 2024, day 77 after the surgery. I started to be able to do about 30 steps at a time inside of the house without the use of crutches. This might sound like a small step, but it actually was pretty huge for me. I still could not have my foot down for more than about 30 to 45 minutes at a time before it would get swollen and very uncomfortable. I talked with my job about submitting new FMLA paperwork and applying for long-term disability since I would not be able to return to in-person work until January, and it did not look as if my bosses were going to be able to continue finding work for me to do virtually. Wednesday, October 16th, 2024, day 78 after the surgery. I was working on doing more steps around the house in my walking boot without the crutches, or if I did need crutches, to just use one crutch. It was a bit painful to be walking without the crutches, but I had read that light weight bearing helps promote bone growth, which was what I really needed by my next appointment on October 31st, so I was motivated to be cautiously pushing myself. In the evening, I was able to bend my big toe, which might sound like a minor accomplishment, but to me this was big because it was the first time that I had been able to do that since my surgery on July 30th. So I was super excited that I had finally been able to do that. It hurt my entire foot, felt pretty painful and sore afterwards, but I was so excited to see that progress. Thursday, October 17th, 2024, day 79 after my surgery. I was continuing to walk around the house without crutches, which was making my foot and ankle incredibly sore and a little painful, but with practice it was starting to get a little easier. I was able to slowly get up and down the stairs without the crutches as well, which to me was a really huge milestone. I was super excited about that. I was using the railing to help keep me stabilized in the stairs, but I was super excited not to be needing the crutches for the stairs anymore. Friday, October 18th, 2024, day 80 after my surgery. I had my first physical therapy session that included strengthening exercises. It felt so good to be actively doing something with my foot. It was really sore and a bit painful afterwards because of how much I had done with it that day, but at the same time it felt great to have been able to do actual exercise. The following week I was not going to be able to have any physical therapy sessions because the physical therapist was going to be off most of the week. However, she gave me some extra things that I could work on at home and at the gym during the week that I was going to be missing physical therapy, and there were a few additional machines that I could start using at the gym to help with my foot. I was so excited to have life feel like it was slowly moving towards a healthier activity level. My best friend Bethany came over for dinner and we went to pick up pizza from an amazing place down the street. I was able to walk down with my crutches because concrete was still a bit rough on my foot. The hill back up to my house was a bit difficult and I needed to ice my foot when we got back up to my house because it did get really sore for the rest of the night and into the next morning, but I ended up walking 2.3 miles that day, which for me was a great accomplishment considering how much difficulty I had been having increasing walking distances since the surgery. Saturday, October 19th, 2024, day 81 after my surgery. My foot was pretty sore and a bit puffy from all the walking the day before, but with icing and keeping it elevated, I was able to still move around the house. I did not do as much walking that day as the day before though, just to give my foot a bit of a rest. I did get some stabbing and sharp pains if I accidentally stepped down with too much force or took a wrong step, but the pain was typically pretty brief. Matt and I went to my parents' house and my family and I went to see the comet at a nearby park. It was faint, but it was a really cool experience. We took a lawn chair for me to sit on when I needed to, and I was able to actually do really well with walking at the park. I was a little worried about how it was going to be with the terrain and I took my crutches. My foot was definitely sore at the end of the night, but it was well worth it for the experience of seeing the comet, and walking across the lawn at the park ended up just being much easier than I thought it was going to be, I think because it's a much softer type of terrain as compared to walking on concrete. Sunday, October 20th, 2024, day 82 after my surgery. I was finally able to stop wearing the XXL and XXL hospital socks and start wearing my own loose-fitting socks over my right foot. I was so excited because that meant that I could finally start wearing all of my festive holiday socks. Matt and I went to the library to pick up some holds and then went grocery shopping. My foot was pretty sore from all of the walking that weekend, so I needed to ice and elevate it after we got home. We went to the gym later on in the day and I was able to do some of the additional exercises based on what the physical therapist had recommended. My foot did hurt afterwards, but icing it helped a lot when I got home. Monday, October 21st, 2024, day 83 after my surgery. My foot was hurting a bit that day and was still a bit puffy from all of the weekend activities, so I was taking it easy as I moved around the house that day. I made sure to be getting steps in and did my physical therapy exercises, but I needed to keep my foot elevated and iced it often. I did do some baking and made dinner, but I needed the knee scooter that day because my foot was beginning to really feel too painful to put any weight on it. Matt was concerned about me making dinner, but it was something that I had honestly really been looking forward to doing that day and just really wanted to do. And so I told him not to worry, but that I would let him know if I needed him to jump in and help me out. If you have made it this far in the video, I really hope that there is some stuff that has been useful in here. I know that it is a lot of information with the breakdown of just every single day, but I have been documenting every day throughout the recovery of my surgery in the hopes that this will help out even just a couple of people as they recover from their own surgeries.